Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So I guess it was like my uncle. My uncle used to be a DJ on 96 WCMF in Rochester, New York, where my parents are from and where I lived for like just a teeny tiny bit of my very early life. But I think that listening to my uncle on the radio, well, he wasn't even on the radio anymore. He just had tapes. But it was listening to my uncle be on the radio through these old tapes of his that made me fall in love with radio. You and I have talked about this in the past, but the magical thing about radio is now, and I think always has been, the fact that when you need someone to keep you company, radio is just about enough. And I used to listen to old tapes of my uncle on the radio and my uncle's radio station, and they would keep me company. And then other radio stations in England where I grew up kept me company. And well, I just ultimately, I think, wound up on the radio because I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be able to give you a companion when you needed it, share music and laughs and conversation when you needed it. And that's sort of why I'm here. But I'll never forget, one of the first things I ever heard was a countdown on 96 WCMF in Rochester, which is funny. I talked to my uncle about this a little while ago. He's like, yeah, what's crazy is they're playing the exact same music now as when I was on in the 70s and 80s. He was like, it was just rock then. Now it's classic rock, but the playlist hasn't changed in 30 years. And I remember listening to this countdown. I think it was a countdown of the top 96 songs of 1982 or something. And there's this one song on there. This one Tom Petty song. And that was my introduction to Tom Petty. I never heard him before. But it had this really kind of cool keyboard intro. That song, Good Love. Good love is hard to find. You got lucky, babe. I found you. And then I really like the way Tom Petty scoops into his words. Like this. It's cool. But I loved it. And I'd never heard anything like it. And I listened to it over and over again. And from there, I kind of like came across Tom Petty left, right, and center. And I guess I've been a fan for pretty much the entirety of my life because of that one listening experience. I got to see Tom Petty live last night for the first time ever at a festival called Kaboo in Del Mar, California. And I became a fan of his music very early on. And the desire to see him live was something I started having when I was probably about 8 years old. And so in these situations, there tends to be a certain amount of buildup that is nigh on impossible to live up to. If someone's had an idea in their mind, a fantasy of what it would be like to see a band play since they were 8 years old, by the time they get there, well into adulthood, there's a very good chance that that performance is not going to live up to the hype that already exists in your brain. Well, Tom Petty lived up to absolutely every expectation. It was perfect. I think the only thing that I would have changed about it is that he would have played for a little longer and he would have gotten to some of the songs that I loved so much that he didn't have a chance to play. But it was amazing. It was sheer perfection. 40 years. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers have been going 40 years. And for the vast majority of that 40 years, they've been one of the biggest bands on the face of the planet. Not only did they get there, but they've stayed there for an inordinately long amount of time. And when they take the stage, it's this big rock machine with legacy and history and tons of expensive production and tens of thousands of people showing up to every single show, knowing every single word, singing along to every single song, people having major, major moments with every single piece of music that's played because it somehow wound up as part of the soundtrack to their life. It is absolutely unbelievably incredible what they've managed to do and be and sustain for so many years. And what was incredible about it was that partway through the set, the now nearly 70-year-old Tom Petty takes a second to introduce every single member of the band. It's funny. Their drummer, Steve Ferroni, he was like, yeah, people are still calling him the new guy, even though he's been playing drums with us for 24 years. But the thing that amazed me was when he was introducing every single member of the band. Really struck me is the fact that, well, he told the story of how Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers became a thing. And in that is a tremendous lesson for all of us.
Let's start the show. Real radio. 104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So, like I said, for the very first time ever, after having been a fan since I started listening to the radio as a wee strip of a lad, I got to see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers last night at Kaboo in Del Mar, and it was perfect. There's every chance that if you've built something up in your mind since you were 8 years old, by the time you roll around to adulthood, it will not live up to your expectations. Tom Petty lived up to every last expectation, and it was awesome. Put on an absolutely incredible show. Every single song packed with personal history for every one of the tens of thousands of people in the audience. Every single song was a soundtrack to somebody's life. And it was amazing. And the band was big, and it was filled with backing singers, and there was an incredibly complicated and complex light show and big screens, and I'm sure it takes a cast of many to put this show on. There's probably roadies running all over the place. Probably each band member has their own tour bus. It's probably there's private jets involved in flying these people in. And this has been going on for 40 years. And like I said, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers they've not only been around for 40 years, but they have been huge for 40 years. They never wound up on that sort of like regrettable state fair. Well, actually, a lot of state fairs are like really big deals now, but they never sort of wound up on that regrettable nostalgia kind of non-vital portion of the live concert industry. You know those bands. They've been done for a long time, but they'll happily trot out the hits every single summer to make their mortgage payments. That's not what Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers are. They really, really mean something. And that's something that you only really fully appreciate when you see them do their thing live. But what amazed me, and where I think the lesson is for all of us, is that despite the history, despite the legacy, despite the 40 straight years of packing out stadiums, despite everything that this band and their songs have become to millions upon millions of people all over the world, when Old Tom was introducing every member of the band, he saved their guitar player, a guy called Mike Campbell, for last. And he said that years ago, he found an ad in a local paper for a guitar player and had a friend drive him to meet this guy, this guitar player. And he said it wasn't like a bad neighborhood. It wasn't like one of the lousy neighborhoods in and around his hometown of Gainesville, Florida. It was the worst neighborhood that he'd ever been in. And when he went to meet this guy that he'd spoken to on the phone after seeing an ad in the paper for a guitar player, or maybe it was the other way around. But when he went to meet this guy, his friend that drove him to the meeting into the worst neighborhood he'd ever seen said, I'm not going in. I am not going into that house. I'm going to stay here with the engine running so that you can get away when you need to get away. And you better take my gun. And he's like, why would I take your gun? He's like, do you have your gun? He's like, no, I don't really carry a gun. And he's like, well, you need one for this. This is unbelievably sketchy. He said he didn't need the gun. He went in to the guy's house, and he said he was playing an electric guitar that he bought for $2.50 at a pawn shop. And he was like, I'm not saying it was like a $2.50 guitar. Literally, this guitar cost this guy $2.50. But then we plugged in, and we started playing, and we played Johnny Be Good. And I turned to him, and he's like, I don't even know your name, but you're going to be in my band for life. And that was this dude, Mike Campbell. And it really struck me that if there's something you want to do with your life, if there's someone you want to be, something you want to achieve, somewhere you want to go, all of this, all of the record labels and millions of albums sold, the millions of people that have bought tickets and T-shirts and all of the above, the massive production that it is when Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers roll into town over 40 years later. All of it started with Tom Petty showing up to a really sketchy neighborhood and jamming with a guy that had a $2.50 guitar. Unbelievably humble beginnings. And there's so many people that I'm sure contributed along the way. But it really struck me that if there's something you want to do, if there's something you want to be, if there's something you want to achieve or somewhere you want to go in this world, the trick is, the secret is to start. To start now. To start today. And it almost doesn't matter how you start, where you start. But you'll never get there if you don't take that first step. It was a lesson that I learned last night watching this band of incredible weight and significance touch all of our lives with their music. And it all started with that one step. All right, Funkhauser, let's take a look at the events of today. What's going on in the world?
So many things. Did you see the 69th Annual Emmy Awards aired last night on CBS?
69? Mm-hmm. That means the Emmys is officially old enough to watch yourself on CBS now. More on that next. Money making, skills on the mic, keep me paid every day, and part of the battle, just bow down, better act like you know.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on. Come on.
So, the Emmys took an awful lot of shots at President Trump this past night just gone by. And we'll get into that later after we roll through what remains of the news. Curious to know what you make of all that and whether you think it's a productive thing. What is going on in the world, Funkhauser?
Stephen Colbert hosted the 69th Annual Emmy Awards last night on CBS.
He got the job because the show was on CBS and also because all the funny late night hosts were busy. Do you like Colbert? Is that a thing for you?
Do I watch his show? No. Do I think he's talented? Okay. I like the character that he's playing. I think he's a fairly dimensional character. Sure, I like him. Do you?
You know, I can't. It's one of those things where I want, because I love the Colbert Report on Comedy Central, where he literally was playing a character. As a late night host, I don't know. Ever since David Letterman left, because I used to watch Kimmel, I used to watch as many different things as I possibly could in the world of late night television. I really enjoyed all of it for the most part. You know, you have your favorites, but I kind of feel like it died when Letterman went away because I'm just not interested in watching. Now you'll watch The Roots playing with Metallica on YouTube as part of like some sort of little aside from The Tonight Show. You'll watch the carpool karaoke and have absolutely no idea what goes on the rest of that show with James Corden. But the bits and pieces that I've caught of Stephen Colbert, it's like, I don't know. I want to like him, but I don't. And to be honest, he is so unbelievably political. He's so political, and he's doing really well in the ratings, so obviously that's working for him, and I think he's being kind of true to what he wants to be, and I can't, argue with that. But I just, the same reason that I don't want politics in football, like I'm just kind of over that, where it's sort of like, I get it, a monologue, every sort of politician is fair game, that's cool, but this is so much of what we do around here that I kind of, when I watch television, I want a bit of a break from it. And when you watch Conan or someone like that, or you watch Kimmel or somebody of that nature, he doesn't go so deeply into it, but Colbert's really found his place in the world that's bringing him rating success, and that's being hardcore, sort of let's go after the president guy, and it kind of wears me out, to be honest, so I don't know. I liked him better as the character. Himself, I don't know if that's a thing that I really can get into. It's not if you're a massive Stephen Colbert fan, yay, more power to you. But it has yet to hold my attention for longer than about 15 minutes before I go, nah, Netflix.
Yeah. Did you see the Netflix is no joke trailer that came out?
No.
Ooh, new stand-up from your favorites.
Oh, wait, hold on. You mean from Jerry Seinfeld?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I've watched that trailer a bazillion times. That looks amazing. That is, as the kids say, everything. That is life. That is everything. What else do kids say when they really like something on the internet?
I don't know.
It gives me life. It's everything. I'm really looking forward to it.
Emoji flame. Smiley face.
There a fire truck zoomed by yesterday as I was on my way to a fire. So I went to this festival, this 3-day festival, Kaboo, which was awesome and super good times, and maybe we'll talk about it a little later. But part of my job there was to sort of kind of document it through social medias and whatnot. And a fire truck zoomed by me as I was on my way to the venue yesterday. And I was like, oh, there they go to put out my Instagram feed because it's straight fire. And I was like, what just happened?
Whoa, man, whoa.
Whoa, man, whoa. So, yeah, no, I can't wait. Dude, Jerry Seinfeld is playing Caesar's Palace in Vegas. Much like Tom Petty, although more so because infinitely more integral and important to me. I'm like a big Tom Petty fan. His music is amazing. I loved every moment of his show last night. But Jerry Seinfeld's kind of like my reason for everything. Beastie Boys, Stern, Seinfeld, Garrison Keillor. These are the fundamental building blocks of everything that runs through my troubled head every single day. And Seinfeld is just so huge to me. And I've never seen him do stand-up live. And I saw that he is playing Vegas, Caesar's Palace. And the most expensive, I was expecting the tickets to be like $500 a pop or something like this. What do you think? What do you think it costs to get the best seat to see Jerry Seinfeld at Caesar's Palace in Vegas?
Under $200.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe you probably know more about Vegas. You live there, you know these things. But I just kind of, every time I go to a place where there's a casino, it's like I'll have a chicken sandwich. And that'll be $28. We think that's fair. And it was explained to me the reason for that is because they want to put everything so pricey so that when they comp you that, oh, you've stayed with us for a couple nights. Here's a chicken sandwich. It's worth $28. You're like, damn, that's impressive. So I heard all the prices were really jacked up so it can make you look like that much more of a baller when you comp people things. Does that make sense? Your $500 comp value is good for this chicken sandwich and these tickets to see Jerry Seinfeld. But I was surprised. It was $165 for the best tickets to see Jerry Seinfeld. And it happens in March and April of next year. And if I really put my mind to it, I think I might be able to save the $165.
Oh, they're going to raise in prices, too, as that date creeps up.
Oh, do they go up? You know these things. I don't know
yeah.
anything about, Vegas. And so I should buy these tickets and start planning a trip now.
Post-haste.
Huh? Post-haste. Maybe I'll go, Well, yeah, no, very, very. I've watched the trailer for the new Netflix special probably about 10 times. and it just keeps getting funnier and better and making me happier every time I watch it. It's out September 19th, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a few short days away. Maybe I'll take the day off and just watch it over and over again. Oh, wait, that's tomorrow. Some bitch.
Yep.
I may or may not be here tomorrow. Wow. Very excited. Let's get back to the new... Wait, hold on, wait a second. Let me... where was... It was the 69th Annual Emmy Awards. Where was it held, Funkhauser? You know these things. You're all show business
Where?
in Los Angeles.
Oh, man, I don't know where.
Wasn't it... What do they... Remember when venues used to have names, and now it's sort of like the...
I couldn't hear anything because of the horrible announcer.
Oh, really?
Nothing stuck with me. Oh, he was so bad. The worst I've ever heard in my whole life.
Do you know who it was?
I almost threw
Could be the
something
guy
at them.
like working down the hall from us.
No,
Like,
no. They had an announcer that was in that is an actor in one of their really horrible CBS shows. So he had no training, and he was like, "Yeah, coming to the stage. What?" And it was just not something. It was like I had to turn my TV down every time he spoke.
There's a real art to that
The
stuff.
worst.
Like being an announcer, being one of those big voice guys at a football stadium or a live event or something like that. That's why your buddy Shadow Stevens lives in his own private castle, for just being like, "Hey, D on the radio." Like the guy that voices our show is one of the biggest voice talents on the face of the planet and has probably made millions over the years, right, Funkhauser?
Oh, millions, yeah. And then they go with this guy who has no experience whatsoever.
Yeah, and there really is an art to it. The Microsoft Theater. Yeah, remember when things used to have actual names as opposed to naming rights? They didn't sell out, like the Halliburton Center, the Enron Stadium, the Microsoft
Sleep
Theater.
Train Amphitheater.
Yeah, Sleep Train Amphitheater, which is now Mattress Firm Amphitheater. It's like, which is cool. Hey, it's much tougher to make.
Everybody's got to make a dollar.
Day and age. Yeah, you gotta, and you have to. But it is really weird when you go see Korn play at Mattress Firm Amphitheater. Slipknot at Sleep Train. Like, what the hell? All right. Microsoft Theater is probably appropriate since about 10 minutes into the show, most people like Funkhauser turned it off to play Xbox.
It was awful. All of it.
Well, what else happened?
Oh, it's just too much political. I mean, okay, so there's a dose of politicalness in all of the Emmys and all of the award shows, right? But this time, it was so in every single thing they said had a political lean to it. It was just a little too much, if you ask me.
Well, you know what? That's kind of what I wanted to talk about later on in the show. Let's do some bullet points and we'll get to that. I'm interested that you said that. You in particular.
Oh, God, it was the worst.
Picked up on. Right.
But here's a highlight. The cast of 9 to 5, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, and Dolly Parton. Oh, they warmed our hearts. You reunited to throw some shade at Donald Trump.
Yeah, or in Dolly Parton's case, more shade.
Yeah, and she had a quip about her quips, for sure.
She always does.
She always does.
Did you ever see her? I think she was on Queen Latifah's show and she tried rapping. And it was right at the time
Somehow
that
I missed
Miley
that
Cyrus.
for some reason.
It's on the internet and it's glorious. Everything Dolly Parton does is glorious. And it's not just because of her glories. There's a friend of mine's got, like, if you ever ask a friend of mine a question to which the answer is an emphatic yes, you know how some people go, is the Pope Catholic? Like, ask me an obvious question, Funkhauser, like, hey, AD, are you excited to see the new Seinfeld special?
Hey, AD, did you enjoy Tom Petty this weekend?
Does Dolly Parton sleep on her back? But, oh, man. Have you ever seen Dolly Parton play live?
No. Wait, yes. Yes.
That was...
Maybe. I can't remember. If I did...
Can we check the tape on that one? Have you ever seen Dolly Parton play live? No. No, she went on Queen... First and foremost, Dolly Parton is one of the best shows I've ever seen. Voice of an angel. And you get that listening to her records, but when you hear it live, you understand that, look, a lot of people can sing, a lot of people can train their voices to sing, a lot of people can hit those high notes, a lot of people can Dolly Parton's thing is different. She's got all that, but her voice is otherworldly. It was given to her by a higher power. It was bestowed upon her. It's a truly beautiful and angelic thing. And not only that, Dolly Parton shreds on every single instrument she plays. She plays like 10, 15 different instruments during the course of the show and doesn't just strum a couple chords. She shreds, whether it's a fiddle or the guitar, or she plays one of those auto harp things, that sort of Renaissance fair instrument, unbelievable, and does it really, really well. It's crazy.
My grandpa toured with her once.
What?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was probably an opening act or something. He was in there somewhere.
Doesn't matter.
I wish I could ask him questions, but I don't have a phone to the heavens. And I wasn't wherewithal before when I was a young funk to ask, so how was Dolly's Partons?
Or just, what was it like touring with Dolly Parton?
No pictures I can find, but they're out there. They're
that's unbelievable, Funkhauser.
Mm-hmm.
I found a flyer for a festival that my band played back in the day, and I'd forgotten. But who was one of the headliners?
No, who?
David Bowie.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I opened for David Bowie in a very roundabout sort of way, but I mean, this is like kind of a mic drop.
Yeah, my grandpa had the similar scenario there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I got to open up for Dolly Parton. Which is different from getting to open up Dolly Parton, but I digress. We should probably move right along. What else? Real classy. Let's get to the story.
Pretty much everyone at the Emmys hit Donald Trump hard.
He took such a pounding that Ted Cruz liked it on Twitter.
Oh,
bazinga. He's still blaming it on his staff, right? Like the rest of us.
Robert De Niro lost the Emmy for Best Actor in a Limited Series or Movie.
So if you congratulate someone who won an Emmy last night, he won't have to ask, you talking to me?
I just saw Cape Fear for the first time. He's in that, right?
Or
is that Pacino? I can't remember.
I think that's him. I've seen like the Godfather movies and Meet the Fockers, and that's pretty much like the... What else? There's Raging Bull. I guess I've seen some De Niro movies. He's very good at what he does, but he lost.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like a... Are you still thinking about Dolly Parton?
Yeah.
Because I said Dolly Parton's good at what he does. I said Robert De Niro's good at what he does, and you went, mm-hmm.
Mm.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away.
More AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving my musical savior. Back once again, your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again.
So, the Emmys aired last night, and predictably, there were an awful lot of shots taken at President Donald Trump. Now, regardless of your political leanings, you might be a Trump fan, you might think he's the worst thing to ever happen to civilization. But do you think this is productive? And we'll discuss that at length after we finish what remains of the news. What else is going on, Funkhauser?
I'm still thinking about Dolly Parton.
Well, me too.
I can't get it out of my head now.
Thinking about Dolly's Partons. Oh yeah, no. When she was on Queen Latifah, she rapped, and it was right around the time Miley Cyrus had released Wrecking Ball.
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden, it's already the greatest story ever. But Miley Cyrus had released Wrecking Ball, and Dolly Parton was rapping on the Queen Latifah show, and went, "Hey Miley, check out these Wrecking Balls." I was just like, "Oh my God, you're the greatest thing ever!" It's amazing. It really is absolutely incredible. The business of show. You know what I mean? Because same thing with Red Hot Chili Peppers. Stay with me on this one. What's the connection between Dolly Parton and the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Look, Dolly Parton is, like I said, unbelievably talented musicians, unbelievably prolific songwriter. Like, she's written, I think, literally thousands of songs. And I think she still plays the first song that she ever wrote when she plays live. And it was when she wrote it when she was like 8 years old. And it's really, really good. So it's like the level of talent and ability and the extraordinary voice, the extraordinary musicianship, the extraordinary songwriting. All of that. And Dolly Parton is not afraid to talk about the fact that she's got enormous boobs. And that has been a large part of her calling card for like the longest time ever. And it's funny because when I used to be in a band,
two large parts of her calling card.
Well, yeah, when I was in a band, they're like, well, what we need to do is get you on the cover of a teen magazine, like some Tiger Beat thing, and albums will start flying off the shelves. And I was like, I was in a couple of those magazines when I was a kid, and I thought it was like horrible. But then, you know what? All these people started showing up to the show and liking our music, and I was like, I guess whatever works.
I think I speak for everyone that we need to see these pictures.
Maybe when I get to know you a little better, Funkhauser. I know we've worked together every single day for the past 4 years.
What else do I have to do?
Yeah. Just hold on for a second. But it was a tremendous affront to my integrity and my artistry and my Black Flag, Public Enemy influence leanings toward the creation of music. Like the idea that they would put me in some sort of like weird teen magazine and we would sell records. But if Dolly Parton has done the same thing, has sort of cashed in on her two very obvious attributes, if you know what I mean, and I think you do, then who are we to argue? And it's interesting as well because, like, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, when I saw them, they played Kaboo, and we went and saw them. We went and talked to Anthony Kiedis a little while back. You remember that, Funkhauser?
Oh, do I? Sure. Mm-hmm.
All these guys are in their 50s, but still look good with their shirts off. Like, it must involve an awful lot of crunches to be those folks. And it really struck me. It really struck me that, like, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, some of the most phenomenally elevated musicians on the face of the planet, really kind of into the artistic pursuit of music and what it means metaphysically and spiritually and all of the above, and really, really fine musicians, very accomplished players. And it struck me when someone said, like, yeah, you know, and Anthony still takes his shirt off. And Flea still plays without his shirt. It really struck me. I was just like, all this practice, all these years playing scales, all this time in a rehearsal room, all this time jamming, all this time honing their craft. And really people were like, yep. And Anthony took his shirt off. It was great. I'm like, you really can't win if you're into that sort of thing.
Also with Dolly,
dichotomy
where when the time that she grew up, there wasn't a lot of women that were kind of owning it. So I think she had to inflate herself to get more popularity, right? You know, you got to flaunt it.
And she was like quick with the jokes too. She was kind of like Bette Midler in that sort of like had lots of quippy one-liners about exactly that. Like I think what did she used to say? She's like, it costs a lot of money to look this cheap. She's so great. So great. And I don't know. It's an interesting one to be sure. Go on.
Kate McKinnon won the Emmy for supporting actress in a comedy series.
Right. But since she won it for playing Hillary Clinton on Saturday Night Live, the Electoral College made her give her Emmy to Alec Baldwin. Aww. Dude,
so many SNL Emmys last night. It made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. Like, okay, I get it. It was a funny series, funny season, but did it really need to sweep? So many other things lost out because of some stupid skit.
What do you think deserved to, like, I mean, I think Saturday Night Live, for the longest time, I remember watching that show and being like, hoping it would be funny, like looking for just an excuse to crack a smile because you grew up watching SNL and you were hoping something that would be. It was that period after they lost all that, like when David Spade was no longer on it, when there was like this, I guess it was like the early 2000s when SNL, just for me, I can't remember laughing. And then it got funny, but it's just it's cool to see SNL get the laughs now, because I watch it and I laugh and I think that was clever or that was well done or what have you. And they've definitely hit their stride where they were severely lacking in years gone by. But what do you think deserved to win that lost out to SNL?
Well, I mean, I can't remember all the other people that were nominated, but, there's like Veep and stuff. It's just like everything had a little bit more writing and more of a crew, whereas all these improv comics swept the Emmys, which is fine. I'm okay with it, but I just felt like a lot of people got gypped out of the nod because of some topical event that was politically charged for that week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure you're correct. I'm sure. Look, SNL have been unbelievably political, and that makes headlines, and that puts people at the forefront of the public consciousness. And so, in its own way, as much as SNL makes me laugh, and I think they have hit their stride creatively, this past season or two just gone by has been kind of comedic clickbait. Is that a fair way of describing it?
They're cheating.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So the Emmy Awards were heavily political this past night, just gone by. And we'll discuss how productive you think this is in just a little bit after we roll through what remains of the news. What else is going on, Funkazzy?
A very disturbing flashback scene of Pennywise the Clown was cut from the movie It.
Have you seen It? Are you
Not
going
yet.
to go see
I'm
It?
going to, yeah. I'm going to go with my dad.
You seen the original?
Have not. Dad has. That's why he doesn't want to go see the new one. He used to look like Stephen King when I was growing up, glasses and everything, and I thought he was for a while when I was growing up. But he's got quite a take on the new It. He's just like, I don't want it to tarnish my memory of how good that was. I don't know. I'm going to still see it though. Have you?
No, I haven't, and I also haven't seen the original.
Yeah, me neither.
I tend to not. I've never been that big of a horror fan as a genre. It's never. I liked Evil Dead. I thought that was very funny. I like it. I like horror when it's sort of mixed with dark comedy, I suppose, in the way that the Evil Dead flicks did. But I've never really been a horror movie guy. Have you? Is that a thing for you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Halloween's my favorite. Here we go. I like all kinds of things that are scary. Like the Ring. Ooh. She comes out of your TV. Ooh.
I never found. I think that's the thing. I never found horror movies to be that scary. Like there would be moments that would startle you, but especially recently. It's interesting you bring up the Ring. I think ever since the Ring came out, that's been kind of like it all looks like the Ring. I'm like, have you not come up with a new idea of what's scary? There's going to be some sort of like creepy, spidery looking child.
Well, the American
long,
Ring
straggly hair
was not good, but the Japanese version, that's a real doozy.
I saw the Japanese version and I saw the American version, and the Japanese one, I was like, that's kind of next level creative. That's as a piece of film, that's cool. But I've never dug horror movies, and they've never really been that scary to me. I think the one movie that I thought was amazing, and to this day is one of my favorite movies ever, is the original American Werewolf in London movie. You ever seen that? I think they made that thing in like 1982 or something, and to this day, the special effects hold up. But the other thing is, like, it's hilarious. And initially I was attracted to it because there were an awful lot of boobs in it. But it's very, very funny, and again, not necessarily that scary, but like the story's really good, and
what about
see it?
Here's one I just want your take on: The Shining.
Never seen it, and I've got to see it. Like I've never
It's directed very creepily.
Yeah, I think, when something is a brilliant piece of storytelling, doesn't matter what the genre is, it's going to hold up. Like, I don't like gangster movies, but you can't get around how freaking compelling and brilliant the Godfather movies are. I've never really been attracted to mob things, but, Godfather's amazing. And it's really, really interesting. And I imagine you kind of get some of this with movies like The Shining, the older ones. I watched the Godfather movies for the first time maybe 5 years ago after, like, all my friends in the hip-hop community were like, what? Like, the Godfather movies are very big in the hip-hop community. And all my sort of, like, buddies that were part of that, part of hip-hop radio, part of hip-hop record making, and back when I was a plucky young white rapper, I caught a certain amount of heat for the fact that I'd never seen any of the Godfather movies. And I watched it, and I remember thinking that the level of storytelling that was achieved was incredible, and it was done without, like nowadays, I don't think you could make that movie. There would have to be giant explosions. There would have to be...
Well, they did The Departed. That was sort of similar, isn't it?
But I've never saw The Departed.
Oh.
But, like, there would have to be all these crazy over-the-top things as part of Godfather. And instead, it was just excellent storytelling. And I would hazard a guess that The Shining is like that. Like the scariness comes from... not necessarily special effects, but Jack Nicholson being really good at what he's doing. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You buy it. If you can buy it.
But yeah, apparently a very disturbing flashback scene of Pennywise the Clown was cut from the movie It. I think
I know what it is, but I can't talk about it.
Well, it's when he's young and he needs money and a casting call goes out for a McDonald's commercial.
Yeah. Oh, poor Ronnie.
Or his genesis, how Pennywise was conceived when Joan Rivers and Carrot Top shared the bill at a Ramada in Toledo. Clowns are all sorts of upset about this. Apparently, it's really eating into the clown industry that this movie, It, is so big. Like, there's like a clown union, and they're angry, and they're like, clowns aren't scary. You're ruining everything for all of us. And, like, the clown community is kind of outraged at the movie It because it's eating into their bottom line. And I can't imagine the clown bottom line was a healthy one to begin with. I don't think anyone goes into the world of
that's why they're complaining.
Clown.
They're out of money now.
They're out of money. Work. Here's the thing. I mean, Pennywise and Stephen King basically, I think, is telling them all to stuff it. That clowns have always been scary, and that's why he, came up with the concept of It. But, if you're really going to blame the individual that makes people kind of terrified of clowns, there was that mass murderer John Wayne Gacy, who was a clown and drew and painted all those paintings of clowns, and murdered like 30 people and chopped them up and put them in his basement. I think the genesis of the scary clown happened somewhere around there. What happened first? Stephen King's original It or John Wayne Gacy? It was John Wayne Gacy,
that's
right?
a toss-up. I think it's around the same era.
Yeah, I wonder if that's why. I don't know enough about Stephen King.
Our Twitterverse will have to tell us.
Yeah. How much time do we have left?
Oh, we got a chunk, man. We got like 7. You want some more news?
Yeah, let's do some more news.
Ozzy Osbourne is in the news, right? It says getting caught cheating finally made him realize the idiot he's been.
See, this is so, like, Sharon Osbourne says Ozzy Osbourne has been cheating on him with, like, 6 different women. But, like, if you are an Ozzy fan and you've grown up kind of watching, all of his different appearances and documentaries and all the... Well, I don't know if he gets a pass, but it would seem as though that for a significant amount of Ozzy's career, they had an open relationship, where, like, Sharon would come out to visit him on the road and be like, oh, there's a girl in your room. Did you forget I was coming to visit? That was kind of the vibe. It wasn't like, what the hell, man? What the hell? We are completely monogamous at all times. And, so I think the whole thing where they are monogamous, I think that must be a newer development.
Or there's money involved.
The relationship. Dude, that's a couple that is so intrinsically tied together. Like, her ability to make money is... And I wonder if that's why she got into, being on all these different TV shows. Where she was like, if I wind up divorcing Ozzy Osbourne, I've got a lifestyle to sustain, and it all comes off of commissioning. all the work that my husband does, and I can't imagine I'm going to keep managing him if we're not living together anymore.
Yeah, and on the other hand, it's like if I'm with a person that's blatantly cheating on me, I'm either going to A, leave them, or B, take a hold of their financial situation and manage that so that I'm secure. So I don't know. I smell something else going on here.
You think it comes down to money?
I think it comes down to money.
Sharon, I'm in love with my agent.
Well, she doesn't get any of the money when you kick, buddy. I think it has something to do with that, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, because like it did seem that for a very long time they had an open relationship, and now it's like this whole thing. But Ozzy said he getting caught cheating made him realize what an idiot he's been. I don't know. You could have 15 years ago. You could have just watched a single episode of the Osbournes and gleaned the same piece of information. This is the very last burrito. Do you remember the one where he ate nothing but burritos for like a week straight? Yeah. Does anybody want a burrito? I'm going to have another burrito. Where are my frozen burritos? This is the very last burrito. We need to get more burritos. That's my big takeaway from the Osbournes. Go on.
Okay, here's some sad ones, because I was really rooting for this couple, Chip and Joanna from the show Fixer Upper, one of my favorite shows on DIY probably. They're denying that their relationship is in trouble.
Oh, that's a couple from Texas.
Oh.
You know what? So, like, they're denying their relationship is in trouble?
Yeah.
If it was, they could just throw on some new siding, renovate the fireplace, new countertops, be as good as new.
Oh, no, she's already done that to herself. She's dollied her partons.
Very good, Funkhauser. Very good. I would like you to put one up on the board for yourself. Can you Karate Kid yourself, Funkhauser?
Only in my mind. I'm the best around.
You know, it's funny because, like, before I was making any money in radio, not that I'm actually making money now, but, like, before I was making anything that I could even vaguely live on, I did some flipping, and it was because of watching shows like that. And it was also because the market had crashed. It was like 2008 or something like that. And you could literally buy houses in Houston, Texas for $1, like nothing. And most of them were foreclosed, so they hadn't really been looked after all that well. So it was a matter of putting in some new countertop, maybe redoing the bathroom. Like you redo the kitchen, the bathroom, the floors, and then the profit margin on it when I resold it was decent enough to where I could, eat and pay another mortgage for a little bit. But it was shows like that that actually kind of inspired me to do it. And I have to say, like, I am not an artistic individual in terms of, knowing how a room should be. Like, I can't place things in a room in a pleasing way based on my own instinct. Whenever I was getting ready to sell a place, I would just look at pictures of what other people. Yeah, I was not fun. I was feng, not shui. And I was more shui than feng. And I would try and get stuff in a living room on my own, and it just wouldn't work. So I'd just look at pictures and copy them and be like, hey, the house now sells. But I got to say, I saw some of their work on TV just the other day for the first time. I hadn't watched those shows in a little while. And damn, one of them, and I'm not sure which one, maybe it's a combination of the two of them, has a really good eye. I was like, that's incredible. They had that vision. They don't have a bunch of designers working with them. I think they do. Maybe they do, but I just looked at it. I was like, damn, wow. I could never conceive of putting objects in a room in that way and making it pleasing to be in the way they've done it. Are we, did you kill the music because we got to talk about the Emmys? Mm-hmm. Well, okay. So I think there is a real tendency, and it's something that everybody indulges in. But I think there's a real tendency for people to get trolling confused with any kind of real productive success. People want those snaps. People want those one-off zappy one-liners that are going to get retweeted, that are going to get reposted, that are going to, hold on. Let's see. Let's have a listen to this. This is Stephen Colbert bringing out the
Not
real
much
Sean Spicer.
Time left here.
What really matters to Donald Trump is ratings. You got to have the big numbers. And I certainly hope we achieve that tonight. Unfortunately, at this point, we have no way of knowing how big our audience is. I mean, is there anyone who could say how big the audience is? Sean, do you know?
This will be the largest audience to witness an Emmys, period. Both in person and around.
Yeah, it's very clever, but does it actually achieve anything? Does it make us a better people? Does it make us closer to what we all want? The answer is a big screaming no. So I really don't care for that sort of thing. Funny, clever, yes. Productive? It's a big misseroo, I'm afraid.